Hello everyone and welcome to the OK's Computer YouTube channel. My name is Patrick and today we are back at the record shelf. We're going to be talking about my record collection. This is part 7 in an ongoing series of videos talking about the vinyl that I've gotten over the past several years. And if you have not seen those first few parts, there is a link in the description to a playlist with all of the previous videos. A lot of great stuff in those. I highly recommend you check those out. But this first one that I wanted to talk about is one that I totally skipped over in the previous part. I am not sure why that happened. I just completely missed it. I am so sorry about that. But it is the Merzbow album, Venereology. This is one of the most recent additions to the collection. I got this maybe just a few weeks ago. I think this is a fantastic album, and it's kind of hard to explain why, considering the contents, the music itself. So it is a harsh noise album. If you're not familiar with Merzbow's work, this is often considered to be his heaviest album. It was one that was inspired by death metal music. It was issued on Relapse Records, which primarily does metal music. I know that there are a lot of people that really hate or just don't understand Merzbow's work. That's fine. If you don't get it, you don't like it, that's okay. Nothing to worry about. Me personally, I think this album is really fascinating. I think there's really nothing else like it out there. And it's definitely one of the heaviest albums that I have heard. So if you're into Merzbow's work, but you maybe don't love the mixing on albums like Venereology, you've got to check out some of the remasters, especially for this album. I think it sounds infinitely better than the original. And I also love the color of this vinyl here. This is really, really cool. I think it was limited to maybe 1,000 copies, and it was called a butterfly splatter vinyl. I'm not sure what the exact name was, but it's this purple and white splatter that I just love. A similar pattern to what they did with their Dillinger Escape Plan albums. I talked about those back in, I think it was part 2. And so they also did those Dillinger reissues. And so yeah, Relapse Records, they're really good with really heavy music, with making it sound a lot better, giving it great colors, and giving it the package and the master that it deserves. So yeah, Merzbow Venereology, the Relapse reissue. Definitely check this out if you're into harsh noise or power electronics stuff. You're gonna love this. Next up, we've got some stuff by the one and only Nirvana, starting with Bleach, and then Nevermind, and finally MTV Unplugged. I don't have In Utero. I am not sure why. I just never got around to it, which is interesting because that is my favorite Nirvana album, and it has been for a very long time now. So why I don't have one yet, I'm not really sure. But I wanted to specifically highlight Bleach because this particular reissue of it, I think it was the 20th anniversary one done by Sub Pop, and it comes with an entire other album with a live show that they played back in 1990. I believe, it was in Portland, Oregon, where we are right now. So I think this is worth buying just to hear that live album alone. They play a lot of great stuff from this era, including some of the covers that would go on to appear on Incesticide and some of the B-sides on singles and EPs. And I also love this photo book that they added of the band recording and performing during this era when Chad was still the drummer. It's really interesting to see this earliest stage of their work when they were just starting to gain some popularity and Dave Grohl wasn't even a part of the band yet. So yeah, very, very cool photo book. I love the extra live album. Love the inserts here. If you like Bleach, if you like Nirvana, I highly suggest that you get this issue of the album. It's really, really cool. We have Mike Oldfield's Tubular Bells, one of my favorite, say, epic songs or one-song albums, if you will. It's a single 40-plus minute composition performed almost entirely by Mike Oldfield. And while the full song is incredible, you probably know the radio edit as the theme song to The Exorcist. So yeah, if you're a fan of the movie, if you like the soundtrack, you've definitely heard this song before. And if you have not heard all of Tubular Bells, you should definitely check it out. This man is extremely talented, and this is one of my favorite songs. This next one is more of a nostalgia thing for me. It's In the Wind by Peter, Paul, and Mary. Now, my grandparents, they really, really love Peter, Paul, and Mary. They used to play this album for me all the time, and so I eventually grew quite fond of it over the years, and so when I found a copy of it for really cheap at one of my local stores, I figured why not. And listening to this album disconnected from all of the nostalgia, it is a really solid album. Now, Peter, Paul, and Mary, a majority of what they do is just covers, but that's fine by me because they are great covers, and there are some really good ones on this album, especially the version of Blowin' in the Wind. So if you're a fan of that kind of mellow 60s folk music, then you should check this album out because it has some great renditions of classic Bob Dylan tracks and some other great covers on there as well. All right, next up we have some Pink Floyd stuff, starting with Animals. I think this is one of their best albums. It deserves all of the praise that it's gotten. I think Dogs is one of the best things they've ever made. But we shouldn't dismiss the other tracks on the album, because I do think that Sheep is another personal favorite Pink Floyd track of mine. And then, of course, Dark Side of the Moon. This was one of the first vinyl I ever got. For me, this was a must-have when starting my collection. Even if it is absolutely not my favorite Pink Floyd album, it is an enduring classic that is so beautiful in so many ways, despite the sort of negative attention it's received from fans because of its popularity. Regardless of all of that, I still think it's a great album. Even if I don't think it's their best, I still love it a lot after all this time. And then there's The Wall. Now, I do understand there are a lot of people who follow me, who are in the music community, who are Pink Floyd fans, who really hate this album. I do understand why. It is very ambitious. It is very lengthy, and it is very pretentious, but I actually think it's my favorite Pink Floyd album. It has been for many, many years. It was a very important transitional moment for Pink Floyd, out of that sort of 70s golden age that started with metal and then ended with this, and into what would be the 80s. And so for them to end that run of albums with their most creative and ambitious and huge album to date, I think it's amazing. I also love the packaging here. It's literally just The Wall itself. That's the cover and the back cover. But then you open it up and you do see some of the characters from the film and the animations. A lot of people don't like the movie as well, but me personally, I think it helps to make the story a lot clearer, a lot more understandable, and ultimately more enjoyable. So yes, The Wall, I am on the side of this is a great album. This is my personal favorite Pink Floyd album. And I do think eventually I should make an album breakdown talking about the album and why it is so important to me. All right, moving on. We have Prince, 1999, my personal favorite Prince album. I think this was him at his absolute best, making some of the best pop music that I have ever heard. And the fact that he performed almost everything himself is even more impressive. Not much to point out with the packaging here. It does do the thing that I talked about with Mad Villainy, where it puts a double album in a single sleeve. I don't know why that bothers me as much as it does. I just never really liked that kind of thing. But still doesn't affect the quality of the vinyl itself. It's a very cool purple and black. I think that looks great. It sounds great. So yeah, Prince 1999, an absolute pop classic, my favorite Prince record. I would love to get more of his, but for now, I am fine having this one. And then I've got two albums by Queens of the Stone Age. Now, I do understand that there's been a lot of trouble and controversy surrounding Josh Homme recently, and so all that I will say is that I purchased these years ago before any of that was revealed, and I purchased both of them from a third-party source that did not provide him with a single cent off of any of this. But I do have Like Clockwork, and then I also have Songs for the Deaf. Outside of everything, these are two very, very excellent albums that were hugely important for me as a person and as a musician, and I wish that they did not have the association with Josh Homme that they do now. But we are going to finish things off on a much, much lighter note with the music of my favorite band, Radiohead. We have some stuff from their run of 2016 reissues, starting with In Rainbows. Now, this is not my personal favorite Radiohead album. It is a very, very close second. If this is yours, that is great. I totally get why, and who knows? Maybe a few years down the line, this could end up being mine as well. And then we have something different with Kid A. It's a double 10-inch. It's the only 10-inch record that I have in the collection as of now. I get that they did one with Amnesiac, but I currently don't have one of those. And this one's actually a gatefold, unlike In Rainbows, and it has this amazing image of the mountains from the front cover, an alternate take on that. I did pre-order the Kid Amnesia Deluxe book, and I am so excited about that. I will be doing an update video when that arrives, talking about the package, what it looks like, and what's inside. And speaking of deluxe books, A Moon-Shaped Pool. Now, once again, even if I don't think this is my favorite Radiohead record, I have a very, very strong attachment to A Moon-Shaped Pool. It was the first newly released Radiohead album that I heard as a fan in real time, and it's been one of my go-to albums to listen to constantly for the past, 5 years or so. For some reason, I just can't stop going back to this album. I don't know why I'm so hooked on A Moon-Shaped Pool. Maybe it's because there hasn't been a new Radiohead studio album in 5 years, but when I heard about the deluxe book that they were doing, I knew that I absolutely had to have one. Stanley Donwood's artwork is one of my favorite things about Radiohead's work, so to be able to have all of the stuff from this era in one single package, I am so grateful to have it. One thing about this package that I still don't quite understand, you wouldn't be able to get it from just watching this video, is that every set of a few pages is a different kind of paper. Yeah, the different types of artwork and the lyrics and the credits, they're all on different kinds of paper. And I don't know why that is. I don't know what led Stanley and Radiohead to make that decision. And it does kind of mess with the experience a little bit. But honestly, I don't care. I think the artwork is beautiful to look at. It's a beautiful album. So that is just a very minor detail that I can easily overlook. And finally, the last record for today. It's a big one. It's OK Computer. It's my favorite Radiohead album. My favorite album. The one that inspired the Instagram account. The one that inspired the channel that you're watching right now. And it still looks beautiful after having the collection for all this time. If you open it up, the lyrics for the album are in a very strange and disorienting pattern. Definitely fits the music. And if we open it up, the packaging here, it has all sorts of weird pictures. The illustrations for this record are just top-notch. I think this is probably Stanley Donwood's best work. Thinking solely about the music, yeah, I think this is by far Radiohead's best album. This was another one of the first albums that I got in the collection. It was a very kind gift from a family member. I was only vaguely familiar with Radiohead when I got this, and so hearing this for the first time on vinyl, it was a real game changer for me. And I think we are going to end it at that. All right, thus ends this part of the record collection series. Thank you for listening. I've got some other stuff in the works right now, specifically a list of my 20 favorite albums from the third quarter of the year. That should be out pretty soon, and in the meantime, as always, be sure to like and subscribe if you feel so inclined, and follow my other social media profiles for more content every day. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you all have a very nice day.